All three of these, man. These books, they're all just kind of like falling together. No rhyme or reason, but it's pretty incredible. Chapter 12, Witchcraft. Margaret Alice Murray, writing in The Witch Cult in Western Europe, establishes both the phallic and religious character of the craft in her remarkable book, from which we extract part of the following valuable information. The deity worshipped by the witches was in some cases Lucifer as the good god in the opposition of Adonai, the Christian god, in his character of the benefactor of humanity, and in other instances Satan, the same spirit as the principle of evil. This is evident from the various references to their deity adduced in the trials of persons accused of this heresy. In both cases, however, the devotees, whether of Lucifer or Satan, were obliged formally to renounce Christ, the Holy Ghost, and the Christian God before embracing the devil faith, which was the logical outgrowth of the Mazdian Manichaean dualist doctrine of the double divinity. The god of the witches seemed to have been generally represented either as the double-faced god Janus or the goat-headed Baphomet, the latter variously modified but usually bearing between the horns on its head the phallic emblem of the lighted candle. Esoterically, this candle symbolized the sex force or kundalini risen to the pineal gland. Cotton Mather stated that the witches form themselves after the manner of congregational churches. Wait a second. Cotton Mather stated that the witches form themselves after the manner of congregational churches, and M.A. Murray gives the following description of their leader. The chief or supreme head of each district was known to the orders of the devil. Below him in each district, one or more officers, according to the size of the district, were appointed by the chief. The officers might be either men or women. Their duties were to arrange for meetings, to send out notices, to keep the record of work done, to transact the businesses of the community, and to present new members. Evidently, these persons also noted any likely convert and either themselves entered into negotiations or reported to the chief, who then took action as opportunity served. At the Isbats, the officer appears to have taken command in the absence of the Grand Master. At the Sabbaths, the officers were merely heads of their own covens and were known as devils or spirits, though recognized as greatly inferior to the chief. The principal officer acted as clerk at the Sabbath and entered the witches. Report in the book. If he were a priest or ordained minister, he often performed part of the religious service, but the devil himself always celebrated the Mass or sacrament. From Le Monde in La Tradition, published 1892, we learn that the garter is the distinctive mark of the witch leader, for a woman shared this honor with the Grand Master as the Grand Mistress and in some cases occupied the office of deacon. Animal masks seem to have been a popular form of disguise adopted by the witches and wizards attending meetings, and this custom is probably responsible for many of the stories of witch lycanthropy. Reminds me of all those presidents and stuff that go around and blow each other and go to dances. Among other obscene and phallic witch rites was the Black Mass, celebrated by a renegade priest upon the naked body of an adept for whose benefit it was performed. It symbolized the perversion of all the rites of the Catholic Church. Black candles instead of white, inverted crosses, chalices containing the blood of newborn infants sacrificed for ritual purposes, urine for holy water. All these were part of the paraphernalia needed, according to the historians, to propitiate the Prince of Darkness and his retinue of minor devils. Besides evocations, casting of spells, and sex orgies, devil worship entailed such inanities as desecration of the host stolen from Catholic churches and the kissing of the Grand Master Devil on the tail or membrane virile. Membrum Virile. Only hosts consecrated in Roman Catholic churches could serve for black mass purposes, as it was essential. Well, that's great. In order to achieve desecration, that the miracle and transubstantiation should have taken place. The host had actually to be not merely to represent the body and blood of Christ. As regards the Black Mass, M. Emmanuel Calet makes the following astute observation in La Prohibition de l'Occult, page 113. One may wonder if it was not in order to canonize such an overflow of sacrilege that the Church in the Middle Ages tolerated the Feast of Fools, at last vestige of the Saturnalia of ancient Greece. Before the altar, upon the communion table, writes C. Leonard, were spread pell-mell grilled hogs, puddings, sausages, playing cards, and dice. For perfumes, old shoe leather burned in the incense burners. Even the text of the divine service becomes the butt of the intermingled parody, a confused jumble of jests and nonsense, of grotesque alleluias and Latin buffooneries, an indescribable chivalry of catcalls, cries, and whistles, etc. A few days afterwards, the church, purged of all these impurities, washed and cleansed, resumed its usual appearance. God again became master of his altar. The flood of human folly had passed. In 1484, Pope Innocent the Eighth issued a bull against the craft, couched in the following terms: "It has come to our ears that numbers of both sexes do not avoid to have intercourse with demons, incubi, and succubi, and that by their sorceries and by their incantations, charms, and conjurations, they suffocate, extinguish, and cause to perish the births of women, the increase of animals, the corn of the ground, the grapes of the vineyard, and the fruit of the trees, as well as men, women, flocks, herds, and other various kinds of animals, vines and apple trees, grass, corn, and other fruits of the earth, making and procuring that men and women, flocks, and herds, and other animals shall suffer and be tormented both from within and without, so that men beget not, nor women conceive, and they impede the conjugal action of men and women." Eliphas Levi, in Histoire de la Magie, page 116, gives the following explanation of the supposed origin of elementals known by spiritualists as dwellers on the threshold. He states that, according to the best authorities, these spirits, larvae, possess the eternal body formed of the vapor of blood. That is why they seek blood and why they were supposed formerly to feed on the smoke of sacrifices. They are the incubi and succubi, the monstrous children of impure dreams. When sufficiently condensed to be visible, they are only a vapor colored by the reflection of a picture, and, having no independent life, they imitate the life of him who evokes them as the shadow does the body. They generally manifest around the persons of idiots and being devoid of morality, whose isolation has led them to develop irregular habits. Owing to the feeble cohesion of these parts of their fantastic bodies, they fear the open air, fire, and above all the point of swords, and as they live only by the life of those who have created or evoked them, they became a vaporous appendices of the real body of their parents. So it can happen that an injury inflicted on them might actually react upon the parent body as the unborn child is really wounded or disfigured by an impression made upon its mother. These elementals draw the vital heat from persons in good health and quickly exhaust those who are weak. They are the source of the stories of vampires, stories only too true and periodically recurrent, as everyone knows. That is why one feels a chill of the atmosphere when approaching mediums who are persons obsessed by these spirits that never manifest in the presence of anyone able to unveil the mystery of their monstrous birth. They are children of an exalted imagination or unbalanced mentality. In politics throughout the ages, witchcraft and practice by subversive sects has played a prominent part. Illustrations of this are to be found in the case of the North Berwick witches, who were tried for treason in 1592 when their devil or Grand Master, Francis Stuart, Earl of Bothwell, attempted to supplant James VI as King of Scotland. The Black Masses held by the infamous Abe Guberg for Madame de Montespan with the object of regaining for her the favor of Louis XIV, are famous in history. Elvis Levi, the great initiate, has thus defined the aims of magic and witchcraft: to deceive the peoples for the purpose of exploiting them, to enslave them and delay their progress, to prevent it even if possible. Such is the crime of black magic. I just keep seeing that picture of Obama with that fucking head thing. You know, in that one picture. You ever seen that? I've seen that. Just reminds me of it. I don't know why. Proof of the foregoing devil worship and contact with spirits or devils is found in history, even as late as 1819, when we read that the devil met Margaret Nin Gilbert, etc., studying the history of the Mopses in 1761. We find its grand masters, grand mistresses, and deacons adorned with the distinctive garter of the witch, performing the ceremonial of kissing the devil's tail as part of the ritual of the 18th century Masonry. The coven of the Middle Ages is the Masonic lodge of today, but the craft remains the craft. Now I have to